Well, it's time to start painting, isn't it? The first thing I want to do is show you a wet on wet technique. Now, what that means is wet paint on wet paper. So the first thing you want to do is, of course, with your half cup of water and your brush, you don't even need paint to start with. And what we're going to do is let's get this area in the background here wet. Okay, so we take our brush, and obviously this is going to be hard for you to see, but I'm just kind of laying out some water on here, and I wouldn't, for this activity, let's avoid getting it on the cup right now. So I'll go right over the top of that ellipse, the top of the cup, and I want to just lay out some water on there to wet the paper, and that's going to have a huge impact on how the color responds when you put it down. Okay, I'm not going to go all the way up to the top of my page. I've got a big piece of paper here. This is far bigger than your sketchbook paper, but this is good enough. Okay, right there. So now my paper is pretty wet, and you can add more. But with your sketchbook paper, if you add too much water, it's going to start to, what they say, pill up, and it starts to beat up the paper a little bit, and you might get little balls of paper starting to come up. So that means you're putting too much water on there. But I've got a good amount of water on here, and I've got really good watercolor paper. But one coat of water to make it wet, and now we're ready to start with our paint. Okay, so you've got your set of paint. Bring it down in here, and we've got our 8 colors, and it's basically the primary colors, the secondary colors, and then black and brown. The primary colors being yellow, red, and blue. The secondary colors being orange, green, and violet or purple. And then you got black and brown. There's no white in a watercolor set. They do make some white watercolors, but for the sets you have, it's just these 8. And then if you want something white in your painting, you just don't paint it. It's the color of the paper. Okay, so now that I've talked so much, this is getting dry, but what you want is to visibly see that your paper is wet. Okay, now when you activate your color, I want you to pick any color you want except black. Okay, so let's not do black, but I want to activate the color. I'm going to make a wet color. Now, when we say wet color, all of them are wet, but when we say wet on wet, we mean really wet. So I'm going to do, I like orange. So let's get some water in that orange. And there you go. You can see, I don't know how well you can see it in the video, but you can see the orange on the brush. And when I put that on my wet background, look at the nice pale color that it gives it. And see that? That's not set in stone. I can still move that around. But because the paper's wet and the paint is really wet, I didn't really mix a lot of paint, that's going to go on there nice and kind of faded, as if it's further away almost, which in our little drawing here, that is in fact the case. We've got the edge of the table, and this is the background. Okay, so every once in a while, add some more water, but you don't need to mix a lot of paint. You don't want this too orange. Sometimes I just want to get more water on there. See, I had this really orange over here. Whoa, too orange. Now I don't need any more paint. I just need more water to move this paint around. And then carefully along the edge of the cup. And that is a wet on wet painting technique. So I want you to pick your color, any color but black, and do your background. See, so now here I've got not enough paint. So I need a little bit of orange. And I put that down. That's really dark orange compared to the rest of this. So now I don't need any more paint. I need more water to move that paint around. And this is really the unique and fun thing about working with watercolors, is the way you can manipulate it after you've put it down on the paper. Okay. And I got my background done. Wet on wet. So you guys give it a try now.